And look at Randy Orton slithering.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
KO! Here's the cover.
Hey, what's up everyone, and we're back today with a video on, as you've probably guessed, as I said, the T95E6, the tier 10 tank you get from completing the Valor OP. So, what are you getting with this tank overall? A fairly mobile platform overall, I think. That's one benefit of this thing. Overall, I'm going to say overall. Generally, this tank I've found pretty underwhelming so far. Just going to be kind of flat out there to start. Not going to beat around the bush. If you have the Chisel, 48 Patton, or M60 already, it's unlikely you're going to really prefer this tank over those. At least I personally haven't so far. Doesn't mean it's a bad tank. No, not necessarily. But just to put it out there, I don't believe this thing is nearly as good as any of those three. And the most obvious comparison is the Chisel, because just like the Chisel, this tank gets 120mm versus the 105 on the Patton, 48 and M60 Pattons. So, kind of going to compare it to the Chisel the most. It's kind of unfair because the Chisel is kind of borderline disgusting. But yeah, that's the tank I'm going to compare this to the most. And the first thing you may notice is looking at this on the screen is, well, the Chisel has the 48 Patton turret with a very noticeably smaller weak spot on the top, versus this thing has basically the Washington Monument sticking out of the turret roof here. And literally everybody is going to shoot you there. It's huge. Like, nobody's going to miss that for the most part. So that's why I say this tank's, you don't want to be the one on the front lines really absorbing the hits too much. You're going to want to poke really quick, take your shots. You're going to be more the supporting medium in this thing, at least I've noticed so far, using your teammates, hopefully their armor and such, versus yours. Yeah, you don't really want to be taking shots on this thing too often. Here you will see the one benefit of this thing, and we'll talk about it, is the DPM on this thing is pretty insane, actually. It fires 7.23 rounds a minute, and yeah, we just erased that Borsig in like seconds, and I didn't even load HE. So that is the big benefit of this thing. The trade-off, though, is that with the DPM, and this is another variant of the E5's gun, is that the gun handling on this is pretty on it. I'm gonna be completely honest there. That's my biggest gripe about this tank so far. I could care less about the armor. I've played tanks like the Leo 1 that have no armor. I'm fine with that. But this thing only has 0.38 accuracy and then a 2.3 second aim time, which isn't the worst, but it's not great. But that 0.38 accuracy, you can feel it, especially at range. It is pretty noticeable. I've had more success with the STB-1's gun. I've never really had much of an issue with that gun. This thing I've been having a headache with, in terms of targets at longer range. So just something to keep in mind for yourselves if you pick this thing up. I still recommend it. It's still a decent tank. It's probably better played in a platoon, because again, you can probably match it with some other friends' tanks that are more suited for frontline kind of stuff, and they can take the hits versus you can plug out and deal the damage. And with that DPM, there is one noticeable drawback, is that this thing only carries 36 rounds of ammo, which still sounds like a lot, and it's, to an extent, it is a 400 alpha rounds, but you chew through them pretty quick with the, at least I do personally, with the poor accuracy. And the pen is a little underwhelming on the AP. It's 258. It's pretty average. Again, it's the E5's gun, but worse in terms of accuracy. The T95's gun has actually got 0.35 accuracy versus this one's 0.38. But again, you trade that off with, I believe, an extra like round and a half per minute or more, something around that. And that's even more than the chisel. This thing fires faster than the chisel. The chisel only has, I believe it's 6.67 rounds a minute. But with the chisel, you get a lot more ammo overall, and much better gun handling, because the chisel, I believe, has .32 accuracy on its gun. And I've actually never shown the chisel on the channel. I do have it. I'm just waiting for a good gameplay on it. But overall, like I said, that's what you're going to get with this thing. Very much a support tank that kind of can struggle if it's put on the front lines too much. Like you see here, we're just chewing this guy up when we have no focus on us at this point. And again, you don't. It's a weird tank because again, it doesn't have much armor, viable armor. You can still bounce stuff that is snapshotted at you basically, or if you're poking really quickly. However, it's not something you wanted to sit and be hauled down in, such as like the 48 pattern, where you have a weak spot, but it's much more usable as a ridgeline fighter. This thing's still very good at that, but not with the armor aspect of it. So far, I've noticed. Of course, I'm rocking the pretty standard vert stabs, gun rammer, and optics on this thing so far, and it's a pretty decent setup so far. I'm not really going to run vents because I don't really need the extra DPM on this. It's already enough for me as we chew up that E100 very quickly with the STG. And you can see this thing really racks up the damage pretty quickly if you can get the shots to connect consistently. But that's just the thing. You just want to keep it kind of close range most of the time in this thing. So what else is good about it? It's also got, yeah, let me talk about the gun a little bit more, I suppose. But 120mm 400 alpha, obviously. Again, 258mm of pen. Heat pen is 340, which is excellent. Not quite enough to go through Jaeger, who's angling backwards, unfortunately. I'd like to carry more almost, but again, we don't have that much ammo, so that's what we're gonna have to deal with. And again, there's some positives to it. It is 9 degrees of gun depression as well, which is pretty damn good. It's not quite as good as, say, the STB, which is, I think, is 10 degrees, but it's right up there as the best of the best. Just, however, be ultra careful with this tank, poking ridgelines, because you have the giant cupola on the top. Some other issues with it, at least I've heard, I haven't really experienced myself, is this thing getting ammo racked quite frequently, and some modular damage to it. It's not something I've experienced too much in it quite yet. But I've had some other people tell me that they've had some issues there. Again, the fire chance on this is 15%, which is kind of middle of the pack. So take it if you want to run cola or not. I want to maximize DPM because I'm that kind of person. I'm a, super scummy super unicum that likes to do that crap. But overall, this thing's kind of a, I don't know if I say love-hate, because I haven't liked it too much. And that may be because I also, you guys notice a lot of videos, I play solo quite a bit, and this tank, again, I said, it just relies on teammates to kind of take shots, and you don't want to be taking them in this thing too much. But if you can get around the sides of tanks and start just putting that DPM to work without the other team noticing, and again, that's the thing you can't do in this thing. As I almost fully aimed on the Conqueror, but I snap it just a second before it's fully aimed, and of course it's gonna miss. You can't really do that with this gun at that kind of range. You're just gonna miss, and you're gonna waste ammo. It's a big thing, and it sucks for me because I really like to take shots of opportunity just because they're there a lot of the time. But this thing, you really have to, at least me, hold some shots that I would generally take because I don't have nearly as much ammo to play with, and I don't want to waste rounds just in case the game develops into a kind of clutch situation and I just run out of ammo, which would be really frustrating. I'm sure it's going to happen down the road in this thing at some point for me, but that's okay. Again, I didn't talk about the armor that much. It's nothing really noticeable. You're not going to bounce much. It's really not even worth, I personally think, going over. I think it's like 120 millimeters on the hull. Some there is around that. And you see this game, I'm already aware that they're pushing that flank very hard. As our whole team has gone city here. Unfortunately, I don't have quite as good a second game as I do, or as I did for the 50T, the tier 9. But there's still a pretty important little, I guess, lessons for the tank lesson or tank review part of this video. As we have their entire team basically side up here. I'm getting shot in the side by 1390. I know he's there, but he's not going to pen me very consistently at that range. So it's enough to bounce like light tanks and stuff like that. He was firing standard APCR, I believe. Otherwise, he may have penned me a little easier. And here we're getting a little bit lucky. Again, 400 meters, and I'm trying to rely on this gun to hit the super consular plate as he's just sitting there. And again, if people let you just sit out and just farm like this, the DPM is nasty on this thing. It really is. But it's just getting it to consistently work is the issue for me. Because sometimes it really works wonders. Sometimes you fire 21 shots, hit 17, and pen 8. Like, man, that's so much fun. I just put one into the AP. So, yeah. Pretty much a love-hate with this thing is he does a full Neo on me and stops immediately as I fire. And I need to play it more. I think last Friday I was completely trash-talking it, saying, like, on stream that this tank is just awful, the worst, terrible thing. And yesterday I played a little bit more solo, and I enjoyed it a little bit more. As I learned the playstyle just quite a bit as we go between the turret and the engine deck for the Conqueror on a kill shot. We're now getting shot in the side quite a bit. I should just prepare, but I just want to take out the Conqueror. Not really the best play there. I don't know what the 260 is staring at. And at this point, they have their entire team up on the hill behind our base or further up this middle line. And right now our entire team is in the town or on this middle line, and we're kind of... This is where something important I like to do a lot to get more damage out of games. I could just stay here and try to fight this out and brawl, but again, I don't want to do that in this tank too much. Just simply because it's not what it excels at all. And I know I'm going to get shot from the side, and they have us in a crossfire right now, which is not good. I don't want to be in a crossfire myself. So I'm going to make the executive decision right now to fall back down, and I'm going to go up back towards our spawn where our other medium tank is off to our left there. It's something I always like to do as much as I can, get the most damage out of games, is set up crossfires. I've been over this, I think, before. I think maybe in the Hawk 30 video I put up last week, or something like that. And if I can, I'm going to try to get the flank on the enemy. It's a lot easier, and you also get them thinking in two directions as well. I'd much rather be dealing with two flanks of fire myself, because I can shoot multiple targets and keep multiple sides pinned down. It may sound kind of contradictory as some things, but I think it's something a lot of people can learn from. A lot of people will just, you know, be bullheaded, and I'm this way sometimes too, and just try to fight things head on and just keep going at it until they win, and just keep, you know, hitting their head against the wall basically, which is okay sometimes, especially depending on what tank you're in. But in something like this, you don't really want to do that, because you don't want to bang your head against a Jaeger in a T95E6. You're going to lose that, as well as you're getting shot in the side by tanks that are capping. And what I mean is, you see a lot of this on maps like is it Overlord or Lakeville, where you'll get a lot of people that will go beach, go to the valley on Lakeville, and that's because they're comfortable with just fighting head on, just straight on. They only have to think about one direction, and that's it. And it's something I'd almost recommend trying to get over. There is times for that, don't get me wrong. I've gone valley on Lakeville, but it's usually in tanks that excel at it, like T29 or even the 50T or Super Conqueror, stuff like that, where I can just farm them, go and haul down if there's no arty. But what I'm going for here is getting out of the mindset of just looking at it as I'm just going to fight whatever is in my way, just facing straight on with the blinders, looking straight ahead, and nothing else. Versus this way, I'm shooting at the Jaeger, I'm shooting at the 4202, I'm trying to keep the cap safe. I got this UDES over here, the 48 pad. I've got multiple shots on multiple enemies, versus just staying in that middle part where the machine and the Jaeger were at, and being very one-dimensional in my thought process, which is kind of... You don't always want to be that way, especially in tanks like this, where you don't have the armor to just brawl out with the enemy team. It's just not the case. Where you'd rather be flanking, getting those side shots, and opening up those avenues of approach. So it's something to think about, something to work on if you're a new player or trying to improve. Is try to think of the best position that gives you the best shots, while also not fully overextending yourself as well. And here we're loading up the HE because I need to take out the UDES, who's on like 30 health. I also spot the Patton, which is nice in the process, gets him assisted by on him. And now we're in a very, very strong position. If they want to reach us, they have to YOLO across the field, and it gives our guys in the middle a better shot at them. So again, we went from a weak position where we were getting shot in a crossfire to now we're basically putting them in a crossfire. And taking them from maybe a win themselves to a loss. As we pump another shell into the 4202, again we're down to our heat shells, that one bounces, and you can see the ammo count on this thing. We're already down to 6 shells here. As we finish him off for our top gun, and now all that's left is the T30 left on their team. Hopefully we can farm a little bit more, maybe get one more shot of damage here to finish off this game. So just something to think about. I can kind of go into a little bit more maybe in another video. I don't know. But hopefully that makes sense. A little tidbit of the day from me, I guess. Just something to think about. Thought it was a good game to go over that. But do I think this thing is worth it? It's still a good tank. It's still solid. It's probably really well played in a platoon as a sporting medium. If you play with your friends or stuff like that a lot. But yeah, I still prefer the 50T tier for tier. I just like it and enjoy it more. It fits me better. However, again, I think the 48 patent, 46 patent, not 46, sorry, 60 patent, and the Chizzer are all better tanks tier for tier. But this thing is still solid, and it's always nice to have variety in your garage. So hopefully, guys, that gives you guys a good idea of what this tank offers and what to expect from it. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you next time. See ya.